Young Turks, Jake Huber, Ben Mankiewicz, Joe Pike with you. JR is producing, ASUS is directing. All right, now we have with us an Iraq war veteran, former Senate candidate, former congressional candidate, and overall tough guy, Paul Hackett. Paul, welcome back to the Young Turks.
Thanks. Really attorney now. I'm back to practicing law, trying to make a living. I am the newly appointed chairman of the Hackett Children College Foundation. And the director of that board, my wife, told me to get my ass back to work and make a living.
How many kids you got to put through college there?
Three.
Oh, well, good luck.
Thanks.
I'm bleeding from every orifice of my body, just like having the new bathroom drywalled. I can't imagine sending children to college.
Ugh.
If I send kids to school, if I have kids, I sincerely hope they'll be underachievers.
All right, Paul, if I run into any legal trouble or if I know any Republicans, I'll direct them your way.
Oh, wow, man, I don't know how to take that.
Because, the guys who are, especially in Ohio, you got to have a lot of business of Republicans that are in a lot of legal trouble.
Well, yeah, we've got, some of them are jumping out of races, We've got Bobby Taft, who's, his political career is over when November rolls around and Ted Strickland becomes governor. We've got Bob Ney, who just stepped down against Zach Space, and they're jumping ship like rats off a sinking ship.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love to see it.
Yeah, beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Another beautiful thing, Paul, was when you were on Hardball last night and you ripped Van Taylor apart. This is a guy running against Chet Edwards in Texas.
How can you help but do that? I mean, Van Taylor is nothing but an apologist for a failed administration, the liar-in-chief, and his chucklehead friends, Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. I mean, Van Taylor, he couldn't find his ass with a compass and a map. I mean, he is an absolute... it's pathetic. What I wanted to say to Van Taylor was, Van, look, you still have time to be on the right side of history instead of just being another pablum-puking, soundbite regurgitating numbnut.
Okay, all right. Well, I hear you on that. So, Paul, why do you think... he fought in the same war you did. He's also a veteran.
Yeah.
How does he come out of that war and have a completely different experience and talk stuff that doesn't make any sense? We all saw the tape. He's just regurgitating talking points. Do you think he saw something different, or do you think he doesn't care at all, he's just trying to get elected?
That's a tough question. I don't really know. We fought at different times in the war and certainly in different places. And, but overall, I'm assuming we saw much of the same thing at a different time. I don't know. That's just a tough question. I'm a little bit skeptical and actually believe, based on some of his behavior, that he's nothing more than an opportunist. He moved to Texas. I think he's running in the 13th district. He moved to that district in order to qualify to run in that congressional race. So to me, that immediately sends up the BS flag that he's an opportunist. And, he's not what he portrays himself to be. He inherited millions and millions of dollars from Daddy. So what does that tell us thus far? He moved to a part of Texas to be a politician, and he inherited tons of money from his mommy and daddy. Who's that remind you of?
Well, was he a cheerleader at Andover at all? Because if he was, then I think we really completed.
No, look, the only thing I can say good about Van Taylor is he's part of one of the greatest organizations, and we share that in common, the Marine Corps. And so I don't know. There's got to be something decent about him, but I think he's been slightly misguided.
So let me ask you about that, Paul. Paul Hackett, of course, briefly ran for Senate in Ohio, and then also ran for Congress a couple of years ago. So
just a year ago. It only feels like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, doesn't it? Right. So, Paul, do you think that anybody in good conscience coming back from Iraq, I know every one of the Iraq veterans except for Van Taylor is running on a Democratic ticket, can come back and not generically run as a Republican, of course, but can come back and support this administration in this war effort?
Yeah, I think anybody who's paying attention, who's served over there, has got to question what is going through the minds of this administration. The problem, though, is And it's really the problem of the Democratic Party is the way Democrats talk about the military, the way Democrats talk about, quote-unquote, supporting the troops, and basically, in other words, their lack of understanding of the military, their lack of understanding of what makes troops, frankly, like me, tick, is they just piss off a lot of troops, and we don't want to hear them. So, until the Democratic Party starts communicating in a way that, in effect, working American servicemen and women hear what they've got to say, they will continue. That is, the Democratic Party, to some extent, will continue to lag when it comes to support from the military.
Paul, that's a really interesting point. So I want to go a little further down that road. How do you think the Democrats should talk to veterans and should talk to the troops? What are they doing wrong, and what should they do instead?
Well, it's really kind of subtle. Just the language that Democrats use in talking about the military is immediately identifiable as they don't get it. I mean, everything from referring to all troops as soldiers. It's one of my little pet peeves. It doesn't personally offend me, but it concerns me when I hear the top leaders in the United States Senate talking about the soldiers who are fighting valiantly in Iraq, and we support the soldiers. And my next question is, well, you support the soldiers, what about the Marines? What about the sailors? What about the airmen? Now, that tells me they don't understand the language. And it doesn't offend Paul Hackett. I'm 44 years old, but I can guarantee you some 19-year-old Marine who's just gotten back from a tour of duty in Fallujah or Ramadi or Haditha or wherever, who his identity is, I am a Marine. I am the fiercest, biggest, baddest, meanest fighting SOB on the face of the earth, and this guy just called me a soldier. Well, I'm not a soldier. I'm a Marine. So we lose credibility when we speak that way. And then this constant desire to kind of want to sugarcoat our beliefs does not set well, certainly with men and women in the Marine Corps, and I suspect from the other branches of the service.
So is it fair to say, first of all, Paul, I think that's a truly great point to point out. And I suspect some Republicans refer to them all as soldiers too, but I bet you're right.
I listened very carefully. Republicans must go through military language school because they almost, I rarely ever hear a Republican say, or get it wrong. They say servicemen and women, our troops fighting the war on terror, but they are careful about the language they use.
Well, I didn't mean to come across as disagreeing there. I'm a little afraid of you. So,
don't be. I'm a big pussy.
But I think that especially you talk about sugarcoating language. First of all, not using the correct language when talking. And again, these are representatives of the United States government. They ought to be familiar with the language, even whether they've served or not. But sugarcoating the beliefs too, because if you look back and talking to that same 19, 20, 21-year-old Marine who just got out of the Anbar province and fought his lights out and saw some of his friends get killed and wounded. Even if you're going to disagree with him, I suspect, and I'm sure Cenk is going to agree with this, that Marine or that soldier is looking for leadership, and he is looking for clarity and conviction. Even if he doesn't agree, not something that is wishy-washy, and therefore he can dismiss as easily identifiable as the musings of a politician far removed from the battle.
You're dead on. Look, you got to understand something. Marines of all rank are used to carrying out happily with a smile on our face orders that we may not think be the best.
Right.
But we do it because those are our leaders. And
you want to feel like those leaders.
Yeah, we want to make sure that the guy who's telling us, guy or gal who's telling us what to do, at least has the conviction of that belief. And if we sense that they don't, well, why should I follow that person?
So let me just continue in this with a sec, because we keep talking about, how many, and when we talk about the staggering poll numbers of how many servicemen and women in Iraq believe that Saddam had something to do with September 11th, and how many people serving continued to sort of want to believe that we couldn't have been lied to. Because if you're fighting, if you're risking death, if you're seeing your friends, your comrades die, man, do you want to believe? And you're not going to believe from people who are equivocating all the time.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I have a maybe a slightly different take on that, and it sounds something along the lines of it's very difficult to explain. When you're over there, and I suspect it's like this in every war, you are fighting for the unit that you're with and that immediate mission at hand, and you are not really bogged down with these greater global questions of were we quote unquote lied to. And so, when you're over there, you have your political beliefs, but they don't in any way hamper or impact your day-to-day mission and the way you view it, because you've got a mission. Mission number one is whatever. Mission number two, I guarantee, if it's not mission number one, is make sure all your Marines or soldiers come home with all their fingers and toes in one piece, still breathing. So it's not like, okay, man, we're going to go attack this building, and we're doing this for the global war on terror. I mean, that doesn't enter into the picture. It's like, hey, they're shooting at us. We got to get back in one piece. This is what we're going to do. Team one, rear envelopment. Team two, follow me.
Right.
Team three, cover my ass. It's not like we're having this big esoteric conversation about what's the broader meaning of what I'm doing here today while I'm trying to, save my ass.
All right, Paul Hackett, thank you so much for joining us, man, and telling us how it is. I got to tell you, Paul, you're a good soldier.
Paul, real quick, did you you didn't mention that Mike DeWine is going to lose? Have you made nice with Sherrod Brown, or do we not?
Oh no, I've totally made nice with Sherrod Brown. Send him some money, help the brother out. I've made nice with him. I take the hit. I take responsibility. That whole deal kind of got blown out of proportion, and probably I was responsible for letting it get that blown out of proportion.
That's good of you to say. I don't think that is actually true, but God bless you, Paul. Thank you very
guys,
much.
thanks a lot.
Paul Hackett.